Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Conversations with Courageous Cancer Warriors. And on today's session, we have Miss Anita Chan, and she is a licensed esthetician, owner of Anita B SPA. She used to be an international flight attendant. How cool is that? And she's also gone through her own journey alongside of her boyfriend with his battle with cancer. So Anita, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lori, for having me. I appreciate it.
I am so excited because you're so diverse. And guys, I forgot to mention too, she's now an author. So I am really excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so thank you for that intro. It's me in a nutshell. I'm a licensed esthetician. I've been in the beauty and wellness industry for almost 20 years. I started my first job at Bare Essentials at the age of 14, and that just started my journey of being in this kind of beauty wellness industry. And I was just one of the lucky ones to kind of at a young age realize what I wanted to do, and from there just kind of went for it. During high school I worked at Sephora as a makeup artist, and then when I went into college I still knew that I wanted to do something in this industry. But when I was looking at the majors, I was like, well, there's nothing really tied into what I wanted to do. And being that I have the tiger mom who is a very successful entrepreneur herself, she not going to college was not an option. It was like you have to go through college and then you do whatever. Well, kind of whatever. So then what I did was I created my own major, which now, if anybody wants to do my major, can do, which is called Fundamentals of Self-Image.
Ooh.
And it's a mix of psychology, speech communication, and marketing. And then at the same time, got my license as an esthetician, and then from there, just kind of continued my journey of being in this industry.
Oh, I love that. And as a person who so my parents immigrated from Italy, and we knew we were going to college before we knew what college was. So I could completely understand of like, you got to go, there's no choice. Like, I just remember like it was part of our upbringing that
Yeah,
they wanted us to have more of an education that they had. And it serves you, and then at the same time, when you have a free heart and a free spirit, it's kind of like, why am I doing this? But you know what, everything has a benefit to it. So I love the fact that you took this experience of yours and then you created something amazing, like your own program. Really is what you've done. So what was that experience like for you?
yeah. To be honest, like you said, coming from immigrant parents, right? And my mom was a single mom, and I'm an only child, so pressure is on. And so when I first went into it, I didn't realize I was going to stumble across like the opportunity to create my own major. I talked to so many counselors, and I was just at the time, I'm like, I'm so lost. I don't know what to do. And I wanted to go to university in New York, but being an only child, my mom's like, no way, you're not going across the country. Little did she know I would be flying, across the world.
Yeah.
But so then I stumbled upon this kind of program at San Francisco State University where they allow people to create your own major. So I looked into that and I was like, well, what does that entail? And so what I had to do is I had to write a thesis paper of why I wanted to study something outside of what they already currently offer. And then after writing the thesis paper, I had to get, the chair of each department to approve it, and then the dean of the college to approve it. So I ended up my studies ended up being a year longer than most people, graduating university. But at the time, I just thought, I'm just doing what I want to do. I didn't realize it was going to be such a big story in my life.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
yeah, it just I think every time I bring that up, people are like, really? I didn't know you can do that, and I wish I knew.
I really wonder what I would actually do. If somebody gave me the opportunity in order to go and make my own major, I really wonder how creative I would be. So I'm kind of really jealous that I never knew that that happened, that that's actually a
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
Wow.
I don't really consider myself a creative person, but when I think back to doing that, I'm like, oh, I guess I was pretty creative in putting together this whole curriculum.
Yeah, and to me, that's really interesting you say that, because to me, makeup and all the things that you do is, for me, is creative, right? Like it's a way of expression. I feel people use beauty as a way of expression. So I find that it's interesting that you don't think that you're creative.
I know. I always say that I'm a horrible artist in terms of like drawing. Like I can't
Mhm.
draw for the life of me, but I can draw on people's faces.
Yeah.
And there's so much formula to, the balance of the of the face,
Mhm.
the balance of our eyebrows, and then how to treat skin. There's so much formula to that that I that's what I love it. It is a bridge between like some creativity, but also like the science and the
Yeah.
measurements and the balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but definitely my scientific brain is like, "Ooh, tell me more." Now, so tell me a little bit about, so you were a flight attendant, and how did that go for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. This was when, so because I never got the chance to go to New York for university, right after college, I tried the startup world for a little bit. It's because I'm in San Francisco Bay Area. And then quickly realized I'm not an office girl type setting. And so I moved to LA and worked in a medi spa there, and then I was 25. I kind of had a quarter life crisis. And I was like, well, I know I'm going to do skincare for the rest of my life. This is going to be my profession and my career. I just wanted to do something that like is completely outside of it and something that I just like will have fun with doing. And both my parents travel a lot. So at a young age, I always traveled. And being a flight attendant, I think is every little girl's dream, right? Like you
Definitely.
and they look so poised and so I was like, well, I want to see if I can be a flight attendant. And so this was in 2008, and I knew I wanted to work for an international carrier. And being that I have family in Hong Kong, I wanted to see which airlines would hire outport. They call it outport when they hire outside of their home base.
Mhm.
And so Cathay Pacific was the one airline that did that. But in 2008, I don't know if people remember, it was another kind of pandemic going on in Hong Kong. SARS happened. And so, just like what we are experiencing, they had a hiring freeze. Everything was just like, on hold. And so, at the time, I was like, well, nobody's hiring. I don't, it's not, I guess it's not going to happen. It's just going to be this silly childhood dream. What ended up happening was because I was working in LA and I was commuting back and forth between LA and San Francisco, I ended up, girlfriend somehow overheard that this guy on our Virgin America flight worked for Cathay. And I kind of joked, and I was like, oh, I should accidentally bump into him and kind of like start a conversation. And so she was like, well, what do you have to lose? I'm like, that's true. So after we got off the flight, I remember he was the first one off the flight and he was walking so fast. And I said to my friend, I was like, I guess it's not meant to be for me to be a flight attendant. So, but what happened was he was actually at the baggage claim area. And I was like, oh my God, he's right there. So I went up to him and I was like, hi, I'm so sorry to bother you. I've been trying to apply for Cathay Pacific, but you guys are not, you just haven't been hiring. And he goes, well, he gave me his business card. He was the director of cabin crew, literally the main guy I needed to talk to.
We talk about this all the time on the show, that the universe puts you exactly where you need to be when you need to be there. And that is an amazing example of that. So
I'm a
it's
believer in that. Absolutely.
right, totally. And it sounds like you had those experiences multiple times in your life, like outside of even being a flight attendant. Now, how did you become part of the Women Who Boss Up series?
Yeah. So, as we all know and are still kind of half living, a pandemic as unexpected hit us in 2020. And my entire career being in the beauty and wellness industry, working up to owning Anita B Spa, which was my dream, got shut down completely, like 100%. We couldn't do anything because we are in the business of touch, right? And being in
Mhm.
close proximity with our clients. So we were shut down, and we were shut down for almost a year. And I, I'm normally a very positive, glasses half full person, but depression hit like crazy. My identity was so tied to being in this industry and to my business that I worked so hard for. I just kind of felt like I lost who I was. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with my life at this point. And so I really was just kind of sitting around, honestly, in my pajamas all day long, and kind of thinking, okay, I can't survive like this. Like, I don't know when this is going to end. Right. And so, this opportunity just came up. I'm part of, I started joining a bunch of like networking groups and forums and things like that. And there's this one group called Asian Hustle Network that started in 2020. Um, Somebody had posted about, hey, we're looking for authors for this book. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Being an author was never something I aspired to be. And I just was like, out of curiosity, because I wasn't working, I'm like, oh, I would like to know more information about this. And so they were scheduling interviews and, kind of handpicking authors that they thought would fit. And I got selected. So I was very, very excited about that. And it just has been an amazing journey alongside with the 17 other authors in the book. We really just kind of grew this sisterhood and this community. So I'm so grateful to have done that, and now learned how to be an author and a best-selling author.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Um, and the experience is really amazing, and the group, the camaraderie, the collaboration, the community that's developed through something like that is truly remarkable. I still, you're the third book in the series of Women Who Boss Up. I'm actually in the second series, and I still speak to so many of them regularly. So it's really amazing to have that connection with others. Now, we need to get a little bit into the difficult part, right? So you had mentioned that your boyfriend is currently undergoing treatments for cancer, and I would love to hear from you as a loved one, how has that experience been for you? Because, we have a saying here that we never want you to be part of the tribe, but if you're going to be part of it, then, we welcome you with open arms and we'll take care of you. So, what's the experience been like for you?
That makes me emotional just to hear that, because that's truly exactly, hitting the nail on the head. It's, you never want anybody, you don't want to welcome anybody into this tribe, but it's so good to hear that when you're in it, that you are taken care of, and that there's people who understand. So good news is we actually just found out he's in remission, so his
Good.
treatment worked, which is so amazing.
Perfect.
But when we didn't think 2020 can get any worse, we then found out that we found he had a swollen lymph node, a lump on his neck, that he had pointed out to me. And me being an esthetician, I am trained to kind of notice things like that along the neck
Mhm.
area. And I also have a couple of clients that I just kind of brought it up to their attention, like, oh, hey, I feel a little bump here. So they went to go see a doctor, and it turned out to be something. So when
Yeah.
he pointed that out to me right away, I was like, please go get that
Oof.
checked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the time, still not thinking that I thought, because he has a lot of food allergies. So we thought, oh, it's just probably some allergy. Um,
Mhm.
you would never think, especially, it's never a good time to hear those words,
No,
but not in
never.
2020 was like a double whammy to
Yeah.
hear that. And so the silver lining of my business being shut down at the time is that I didn't have to work, and I was
Mhm.
able to kind of be there by his side. But he truly is the warrior. Me being the caretaker, I sometimes even shy away from saying being I was the caretaker, because he was just a warrior. He was so independent. He powered through it like a trooper. He continued working. He lives in Henderson, Nevada, but he's from California. And he has a brother who's a doctor. We really were like, can you come to California for treatments? Like, we feel just more comfortable with that. And so he went to UCSF, which we were so
Okay.
grateful for. It's one of the top in the nation for cancer treatment. He
Yeah.
had the most badass Asian oncologist. Like, when he met her, he said, I love her. And I was like, you never even used the word love 3 times on me. Like, she really has to be amazing. And she really was just a really badass. Like, she should be part of the book series, because everything that she does is so amazing. And I know, you working, in oncology yourself, I mean, the people that do it, they are just angels, because it takes a special person for me, being a loved one, seeing them go through it, but to be the actual, medical personnel, like, because he would share the whole experience of chemotherapy and
Mhm.
radiation and the scary screen, because it's, for him is head and neck, so the screen that he
Yeah.
had to go under. And he wasn't claustrophobic, but from that he became claustrophobic. And to hear it, it was like, I want to help you, but I don't know how, you
Yeah.
know? And that's
Yeah.
really that feeling of being that caretaker and seeing your loved one go through it. And also, like, trying to be strong. Like, I didn't want to cry so much in front of him because he was already, so emotional. I'm like, okay, I have to be the strong one. I have to be the positive one. So that was my experience. And it was a lesson I hope nobody has to take, but it was definitely a lesson to.
And what was the lesson that you learned? How did you change?
Yeah, so I think I've always been kind of type A
Mhm.
personality. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we always say, like, entrepreneurs, they have a fine line of being a little bit arrogant, because you have to, believe in yourself that you can do this in order to do it. And so for me, I'm kind of that fighter. I'm like, okay, this is what you need to get done. This is what, you have to do
Mhm.
this, you have to do that. All of that kind of went away, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it really is, how are you feeling, and you go at the pace that you want to go at, because
Yeah.
I'm not the one living it, right? Like, he's the one living it. And just having that much more gentle approach, while at the same time, having got that kind of like authoritarian, like, you need to stay positive, like, you need to get your mind out, out of this, like, because you know it's easy to go into this negative
Mhm.
mindset, right? And so it was like, no, 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 stay positive. He's an engineer, and he doesn't believe in manifestation. But I asked him, I was like, there's only one thing I ask you to do, is every morning when you wake up, just say it out loud. I'm grateful to be cancer free.
Mm.
I just asked him to do that. And thank God he complied to doing it. But I'm just a believer in manifestation. But I had to learn not to push my beliefs onto him, because he had to go through it the way that worked for him. So that's
Yeah.
what I learned.
Yeah, and you bring up a really valid point. So first and foremost, I also believe in manifestation. I part of how, part of my story is that um I never went for my baseline mammogram at 40. I showed up to my primary care physician at 41. She gave me an exam. We didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything on my self exams. And then 2 weeks later, after she tells me, Lori, they changed the guidelines to 45. You're fine. You bought yourself another 4 years. When she I left, and even though I was in oncology, I was kind of like, well, I don't know how I feel about that, but life went on, right? You're so busy that you're just like, I'll get to it at some point. That I woke up to a dream one day that I was riddled with cancer in my dream.
Oh my God, that
And
gives.
it's what propelled me to go and make the appointment. Like, I called up my bestie. I'm like, you have to hold me to account. I have to go and get this mammogram done. And in hindsight, it's like, why was that this test that I needed? It could have been anything. And literally, you know what? I called the same day. They had an appointment the next day. And literally, like, my life changed after that. But it's one of those things that if I didn't listen, and if I, and the crazy part is that the universe put me in Boston at another institute that's amazing for cancer. And I was working for a world renowned breast oncologist, right? Like, the universe puts you where you need to be. The signs are there when you need them. And that's how I changed, right? Like, it's one of those things that, like, I no longer fight things. If things keep showing up for me, I'm like, okay, you do it. Like, you show me why. And I'm so clear that if I didn't take action in that moment, I wouldn't be here with you today, right? I'm almost 4 years out, and I'm 45, right? So I would have presented really late instead of like, I still had a stage 2 presentation, but it would have been a lot worse. But so that's why I love what you said, is that, we all have, I believe in manifesting. Every morning I say to myself, thank you so much for another day, for surviving through the night, right? And I'm going to take on the cancer free part. That's going to be in addition to that. But then too, like, you go through this experience, it totally changes you, whether or not. So as a patient, we can't ever explain to you what that's like. It's really terrible. But then also as a caregiver, it's terrible in its own right too. And as a loved one, when you just can't take it away. So I love the fact that what you got from this experience is like, go easy, right? Because I'm a type A too. I'm like, do. Like I was telling people what I wanted for my surgery and all this stuff. And now I'm just like, it's all good. Like I
Yes.
got it. And that's
Just,
a long-winded way to just tell you that I agree.
I mean, it really is just trust that, that you just believe that you will be taken care of.
Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things, and talking to the other authors in the book, especially for women, it's so hard for us to, one, ask for help, and
Mhm.
two, to believe that we will be helped.
Yes.
I think that is really, that was my own kind of realization, alongside with seeing a loved one go through cancer treatment, is and I also am, the technical part of it is like, I'm a believer in getting second and third opinions, because his first two doctors completely misdiagnosed him and like didn't think that
Mm.
it was anything. And
Yeah.
thank God he's an engineer, so he just kept pushing forward to it, because there's
Mhm.
people who will just believe in whatever they were told the first, two
Yeah.
times, and that was it. But yeah, I think for him, when he met the right doctor,
Mhm.
that was that, that's when I saw him really accept that, okay, I'm going to be taken care of. And
Yeah.
I think in medical, in wellness and everything, that's the mindset that needs to change, right? Instead
Mhm.
of constantly thinking like, I don't know if they're, if this is going to work, I don't know, constantly doubting. And for us in our daily lives, just trust that, the universe has its plan for us, or whatever you believe in has
Yeah.
its plan, and we are meant to go through whatever we're supposed to go through. And I know there's so many people that have hardships that can't see beyond that. But truly, a lot of things, it's out of our power. So how can we change our mindset so that we can turn it into something positive and make the best out of it?
Absolutely. And we speak about that all the time here. So I'm really glad that you brought it up of don't you have to be your own advocate. If you don't like what somebody tells you, you could fire your doctors, you could fire the people that you're involved in. It does not matter, right? The one thing that they're going to hold you to is you have to finish that cycle of chemo or that part of that treatment. But you don't need to stay with the people that are just not serving you. Like I fired my oncologist here in Florida. Like I'm just like, she didn't work for me. She had an amazing background and she was credentialed to the nines, but I'm like, yeah, I don't like you. Like, I
Yeah.
don't. And it's okay to not connect with somebody. So then I went and I found somebody else who I felt more taken care of by, and that I felt I was listened to, and I don't need somebody to go and tell me to live, right? Because that's what she had told me. She's like,
Right.
don't worry about it. Just go live. Because I'm asking that I wanted tests. I'm like, do I need follow up tests? Like, where am I? And she's like, like I felt dismissed instead of being empowered. And
Yes.
so, for everyone listening, any aspect of your life, right? And this is what I work with my clients on, is that no matter where you are, no matter what you have going on, cancer, no cancer, whatever it is, like getting to the store to go food shopping or running a marathon, it does not matter. If you feel disempowered, if you feel you're not being served, like you have to stand up for yourself. Like you have to be an advocate. And that's why when I was, looking into some of your stuff, when I was stalking you a bit, I love the fact that you had a saying that in order for us to feel fulfilled, healthy, and balanced, it's our own responsibility to take care of ourselves first.
Yes.
So
It
thank you.
really, I mean, I'm just like, trying to not jump for joy for everything that you said, because even with getting facials and finding an esthetician, right? Or finding a hairstylist, people always ask me like, "Oh, how do you know if they're good or not?" I always say, and I say this to my own team, my own employees, is, you know what? You're going to attract the clients that are attracted to you, the
Mhm.
ones that work with you, and ultimately for clients, like, you just have to find that hairstylist or that esthetician that you jive with, because that is going to be so much more effective than somebody that you just don't enjoy that experience. Like that 1 hour or hour and a half of self-care should be that cleansing and nourishing and pampering experience, because you enjoy, the company of whoever that's working on you, right? And so it definitely ranges from like getting a facial to like yeah, an oncologist or a doctor, right?
Mhm.
It's that experience, that relationship part of it.
Mhm.
And ultimately, going back to what you said, it relationships is so important, right? That's really what fulfills us. But at the end of the day, we spend so much time on relationships that don't serve us, that actually take from us. And and we then realize, like, why is this so much effort, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when we work on ourselves and we are hold ourselves responsible for fulfilling ourselves, we then can harness these relationships, and that will just, we are serving and we are giving,
Mhm.
and in vice versa, like those relationships will also
Mhm.
mirror what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's why for me, like, my message is always take care of yourself first, because nobody else is responsible for taking care of you. And
Yeah.
to be honest, everybody is figuring out how to take care of themselves.
Yeah,
you,
definitely no.
you know
Definitely. I think if there's a silver lining to everything that everybody's gone through, it's that. It's
yeah.
really that. Like recognizing like enough is enough. And I really believe there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a shift where it's people are not going to allow other people too, right? Like I think we're going to start calling each other out and being more of a support and not set the expectations so high. And I don't mean that as not being productive, but like the standards that are set here for certain things, especially for women,
Yes.
are really unattainable, right? Like you can't expect a mom to be a full-time mom, full-time person, and then still put herself together and then still have dinner ready and do all the things, right? Our time is finite, and it's really one of those things of it has to focus less on doing and more on what you said, like loving and serving. And I
Yeah.
and it's just it resonates so much with me, and it's really speaks to the space that I'm in right now too, right? Like my whole life is now serving. I was in a serving capacity before, but now it's just different. So thank you for having that come up for me, because that's I truly appreciate that. That's
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
I don't know if you've listened to Esther Perel or read any of her books, but
Hmm.
she talks about that so much, about how, um, back then it's all about community, and you have different people to help you do different things. But current society, we put all that expectation on one person, be it
Yep.
yourself or your partner.
Yep.
And it has become unachievable. Like, we just don't have the capacity to do everything, right? And so really, I'm hoping, I this pandemic, it has not been pleasurable to go through, but I'm hoping it sears this lesson into everybody, that we need to, work on ourselves, focus on ourselves, and then really, rely on relationships and the network that we
Hmm.
have, so that we are not just answering to everybody and
Yeah.
stretching ourselves too thin, because
And yeah.
yeah, that's what our
Yeah.
society has turned into, right? Like, you just work, 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 and
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's about fostering the relationships
yeah,
that serve you, right?
yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you, and I can't agree more. So I absolutely love this conversation. I feel I could talk to you for hours. So please know that you are welcome back here anytime. I
Thank you.
would love for people to be able to find you. So how can they find you?
Yeah, so on you can check out my website, which is ANITABSPA.com. That's where we have the book sales. And I just want to add in that for our book sales, 100% of the proceeds of the hard copy that I'm selling, we're going to donate it back to the whole anti-Asian racism
Oh,
situation going on. So there's a lot of organizations that's really trying to figure this whole, unfortunate situation out. And so I just felt like I wanted to be of service, and that's what this book ended up being for me. It started off as kind of like a friend project, but I just got propelled to say, like, hey, I need to use this book to serve the community back.
I love that.
So the website, you'll be able to find that, and then of course on Instagram, Anita B Spa, which is the business's Instagram, and you'll find a lot of like tips and information about skincare and self care. And then my own Instagram is at Anita B Beauty, and I share more of like life things, like entrepreneurship and the whole, being a caretaker and all of that. So
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. We'll make sure that we add that to the notes, so that people have the links available. And just Thank you. Thank you for who you are in the world. Thank you for the soul and sharing that with us today and just being part of this community. We really welcome you in.
Lori, thank you so much for having this platform, and to really let people out there know that we are all in this together and this community that we don't want to be a part of. But since we're here, we're going to make the best out of it.
Exactly. And we're in good company. There's so
Yeah.
many amazing people out there. So if you are struggling, for those of you listening, if you're struggling, if you need some support, you know how to get in contact. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I have a complimentary 20-minute session where we could just work through whatever it is that you're working through with no commitment needed. So just please get in contact with me. Email, phone number is on my website, lorimarini.com. Would love to hear from you.